you're doing a new film? Mm-hmm. Okay. You know, I'm just more than just a sales agent. I don't know if you know this, but I'm an actor. And I just brought my headshot.
All right, cool. Yeah, that's like, what, 50 years ago?
I haven't changed. Wait, look. Have I changed?
I mean, I obviously didn't think that's what you meant. Do you know? I mean, I'm very iconic, my character. I can't be nude. I've never been nude in my life. Naked.
You're happy to do it naked, right?
Yeah,
she's happy
absolutely.
to do it.
She's, you know, she's a, you know, an up and coming, hardly done anything actress.
I see so many nude pictures of you recently. It's work.
Really?
I'm making a film called The Lies We Tell Ourselves, which is about self-deception. It's about being authentic to yourself, and I don't see how one could be any more authentic than by being nude.
What about Bitcoin?
Excuse me?
Bitcoin.
What's that, sorry?
Pay people in Bitcoin.
Is that real money?
I didn't say that.
So we just watched the trailer of The Lies We Tell Ourselves, directed by Saara Lamberg. Please hold on to all your questions and your reflections till the end of the next show reel that we're going to watch. We're going to watch the show reel, the director's show reel, and that's by Anastasia Antonakaki. And today I'm so proud to celebrate these two directors, and huge thanks to our panelists who are joining us today. I can't wait to talk about the films, but first I would love everybody to introduce themselves. Please introduce yourself. Let us know your name, which city you're logging in from, and what do you do for your passion. We'll start with Saara, who's the director of The Lies We Tell Ourselves. Saara?
Hi everyone, and thank you ever so much for having me. It's such a pleasure, and thank you for showing my trailer of my third feature film, The Lies We Tell Ourselves, as well. I grew up in Finland. I lived in England and a couple of other countries in between, and now I operate from Melbourne, Australia.
Thank you, Saara. Anastasia?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. Thank you so much for this invitation. I am Anastasia, or Anastasia, as it suits you. I don't mind. Right now, I am in Athens, in Greece. I am a writer and a director in film, and I also love theater very much.
Thank you, Anastasia. And can we call you a doctor now, or is it just a couple of more days?
Not yet. Yeah, we still need maybe like it's 17, maybe a month,
Okay.
and then you can call me doctor too.
Okay, that calls for another celebration. Thank you, Anastasia. Aurélie?
Hi, I'm Aurélie Garon. I'm a French artist and filmmaker, currently living in Paris.
Thank you. And Aurélie is also one of the best film award winners in the category of a semifinalist at the Center for Media and Celebrity Studies sponsored the Wall of Fame Film Festival. And really happy to have you back, Aurélie. Sugandh?
Hello, thank you so much, Ramita, for inviting me to this panel discussion. I am Sugandh. I am a dancer and a dance filmmaker from India, And I'm really happy and excited to be a part of this. I'm really looking forward to the films.
Thank you, Sugandh, for joining us. I'm Samita Nandi from the Center for Media and Celebrity Studies, now also sponsoring the Wall of Fame Film Festival. And it's based on my PhD, which is celebrity culture. And I did my PhD from Perth, Australia. And I'm really honored to be able to celebrate ethical filmmakers and actors for human rights, for animal ethics, for sustainability on behalf of the film festival. The film festival is not just an annual film festival. We don't have the date for next year yet, but it is a festival community, and really proud of all our artists who are here today. We're gonna take a look at the show reel, the director's show reel by Anastasia next, and then we're going to take questions. So please bear with us for a couple of seconds again, and we'll be back. So we just watched the director's show reel, and that's by Anastasia. I have a lot of questions and reflections on both the films, and I'll let all the panelists speak to the films. But my first question is, Sarah and Anastasia, what were some of the primary artistic and social reasons for which you did the productions? What are some of your goals, Sarah?
Yeah, that's a big question. What are my goals? My goal is just to keep progressing as an artist and to be able to grow as a human being and to be able to question things that I think are worth questioning and to be able to present the truths as I see them and from my perspective and from the perspective of what I believe to be true, I suppose. And that's based on my life experience and my, everything that I know. And I think that's what I put in the film. I guess I like researching subjects that I haven't seen in a film before. And I'm sort of a little bit bored by the overproduced mainstream film that seems to be the same every time with a slightly different plot and slightly different actors. But I think I feel like I can provide something different, like a different angle, and I think that's mainly what I'm looking at doing through my work. But whether it's quite that contrived, I don't think so. I think I just make films that I think I would like to see, and in the belief that, hoping that there are other people out there that are therefore interested in them. Because so often I go to be an audience member myself, and I feel like I really relate with films that are authored, that are made by a strong filmmaker with a strong idea. And I often compare filmmaking to like painting. You wouldn't expect there to be several different painters. There's one painter that creates the artwork, and that it's the vision of the one person. And of course, filmmaker is slightly different because we work so much with other people, and in some ways other people are our paints, and they're the materials that we use to create the film. But the vision, I feel like, when it comes from one person, is still those are the most interesting films for me. I think it's just something about authenticity that one person, as a filmmaker, as a director of a project, can provide, that can be sometimes lost when films are sort of so overproduced that so many people's voices are in them that it becomes a sort of like a mixed salad rather than a simple authentic dish. I think I just like the simple authentic dishes.
Yeah, and I think the goal of artists is to show the unseen and to raise questions, which you are, just through opening up spaces and different representations. And, when I came across your film, The Lies We Tell Ourselves, I think you were having a New York City premiere at that time. I was in India at the moment, and I came across the film, and the title caught my attention right away. And the title is so articulate. It literally talks about, what you're saying in the title. It's that transparent. And I think one of the challenges we have in our society, and that is reflected in a lot of mainstream films that we watch, is, we don't necessarily live our truth. And you showed in so many different artistic, experimental ways, just questioning, and it was actually really fun to watch. I watched the entire film, Sarah, and I feel there's a lot for filmmaking students and for established filmmakers to learn from your film. So congratulations on the 2 premieres you had. You won a number of awards. You also went to the Perth Revelation Film Festival in Perth, where I did my PhD. And I know at that time our panelist, who can't be here today, Ian, he was also featuring his film. And so we were very happy for your film, Sarah. Anastasia, what are some of your artistic and social causes for doing the films that you do?
Yeah, for me, the first thing is what you said, like, tell my truth, and not giving answers, but raising questions. Because this is the main doing what I'm doing. And another thing is that I was, and I still am, very tired of all this female art and female director, and what does it mean to be a female director, not just a director. Like, if you are a female, you are talking about certain things in a certain way. This is the male gaze of what it does mean to be a female director, and you are always the other. O capital. You're always something else. And I wanted to speak my truth as a woman and as a human being. And this was something like me exploring what it does mean to be a woman in a male-dominated world that right now it is colliding, and we're getting in the front. And I wanted to question myself. I wanted to question the beauty standards. I wanted to question everything. Like, is this what liberates us? Is this what imprisons us? And I was really lucky to have a wonderful cast of women, and I was really lucky to also have a wonderful crew that featured men also, that were very they trusted my vision and what I wanted to explore, and they captured it beautifully. Yeah.
Thank you, Anastasia. I have so much to talk about, women on screen and in films. But I'm gonna ask Ariel and Sugand, what are your thoughts about women being in film and their perspective? And yeah, I'll let you speak. Ariel, your thoughts?
I agree with Anastasia. I don't want to be seen as only a female artist or filmmaker. In France, things are changing, but during a long time, if you're a visual artist and you're a female, you are not treated like other people. It's very complicated. I remember when I come from art world and I have studied philosophy. I wrote books when I was young, and many people told me that I should not say that I've studied philosophy, I wrote about philosophy, and they only wanted female visual artists. But and my work is there is something a little bit rough, because I have a taste for the exploration of human psyche and its cracks, its zone of opacity. So I know that when you see what I am, they are very surprised to see my work, my artwork, or my films, in fact. And I think, yes, in France things are changing, but it takes so many time, and it's a rough way.
Yeah. I come with my experiences, and it's shocking what a couple of people have said or not said. Sometimes a lot is said also in silencing. Sugand, what are your experiences as a rising dance filmmaker?
To be very honest, I feel the same. It's not a big deal to be a women filmmaker in a film industry, and whether which part of the globe you're from, it doesn't matter. I feel that I honestly feel that, of course, there are very few filmmakers, specifically if I talk in Indian context, who are women. But when we are making films, we are not thinking about, oh, we are the only women filmmaker, or we should only hire women as crew to be part of our film. The focus, the sole focus, and the objective of making a film is making a film and nothing else. And all of this comes later when people start putting us in on a pedestal that, oh, there's a female filmmaker who's made a particular film, was your crew of women or something like that. And but we are not thinking of anything like that. And to be very honest, when I started making films, I made films for my love, and that's what I want to spread: love, my story, my truth, like everybody here on this panel is doing. And my passion for dance and filmmaking and storytelling. So a clarity of what you want to say, how you want to say is important, rather than where are you coming from or what your gender is, I feel.
Yeah, that's very powerful. Thanks, Sugan. And I do feel, just the fact that, we do independent films come with its own unique perspective, like, because there are a lot of untold stories, a lot of untold or experimented formats. And Sarah, you used quite a bit of experimental methods. Some of them are abstract. When you were doing this film, The Lies We Tell Ourselves, were you intending to close some aesthetic gaps? Did you have any particular aesthetic vision, or you just went with the flow and what called you? Sarah?
Sure. Again, I'm definitely more of a filmmaker than I am an academic, so I'm not sure how good I am at sort of analyzing my own work before or after. So I feel like I go out and I make it, and whatever vision I may have, whether I'd be able to explain that in words, that's probably not going to be possible, but it can be seen on the film itself. I gave myself quite a lot of freedom with this film. It's almost completely improvised. Shot it in 7 different countries as I was traveling to different film festivals, and it's borrowing a lot of inspiration from real life, although it is a narrative fictional film as a piece of film that you can see, but a lot of kind of the themes and the elements are from real life. Characters have been inspired by real life. So I didn't really set out to achieve a certain kind of a look for the film intentionally. I gave myself the permission to experiment, I guess, from very early on in the process and just see what happens. And really, the film became what it is in the editing process, and even through several rounds of edits, from draft edit and then seeking feedback on that and changing the film and using the feedback that I received from my test viewers to create the next version of the film.
Yeah, one thing that caught my attention is the aesthetics and politics of fame, which I explored during my PhD and my postdoc. And I don't necessarily have any challenge with the aesthetics of fame. For example, the red carpet. I love the color red, and you have used the red carpet too. And at the same time, you're also, asking, certain questions. You look at, certain film stars at the very beginning of the film. So, and you use quite a bit of text, and I found that very interesting. Like throughout the film, you use text to question, like, is this true or is this a lie? But you start off with the names of film stars, and I found that very powerful, and not necessarily criticizing, but you're actually laying out the context. So I feel like you used a lot of context very appropriately. And a lot of the contexts are just like in the geographical settings in which you're shooting. What are the countries you shot in, Sarah? Can you name them?
Yeah, sure. So there was Australia, France, Great Britain, India, New Caledonia, Italy, and Germany.
Okay, wonderful. And before I forget, I did have one other question. Those who haven't watched the film, those who haven't had the chance to go to a particular film festival or to a movie theater where the film was being shown, how can people access, and why would you like people to watch the film? Like, why should people watch it? And I think people should.
I think the overwhelming feedback that I get from this film is that it's very relatable to anyone that does anything in the arts or anyone that does anything in science, because even just seeking for funding as a non-male practitioner, it has been relatable to many people in many different areas, not just in the arts. I've heard from people that work in science and they also have to apply for funding for their work, that my film has been very relatable and sort of like yes, funny, but also very deeply sad for them because of the difficulties that it presents and the questions that it asks. I think it's really a film that I think anyone can get something out of, because yes, it's around making films. It's a mockumentary about making films and seeking recognition, seeking funding as an independent filmmaker. That's been born into my agenda, but I think in many ways it asks a lot of more fundamental questions about what is it like to be a human, what's it like to be a human with feelings, for example, feelings that are very low sometimes you feel very depressed, and how do you deal with that? How do you deal with life challenges, deaths and personal illnesses? But it's all done sort of through a lens of humor, and that seems to be what really resonates with my viewers. And for that reason, I feel like it's yes, it is an experimental and unusual film, but I don't think that makes it applicable to a certain audience only. I think anyone deserves to have access to experimental and unusual artwork, I would hope. And I think one of my challenges as a filmmaker is the distribution of this work, because this is only one of my feature films that doesn't really have distribution, and for that reason it's not very accessible to people. I would love to have it in every cinema of every country around the world playing, so that people could access it. I think the challenge has been finding distributors that are willing to take the risk that this kind of work interests people. And it's sort of an ongoing theme in my career, because I tend to make films that are so left of center and so unusual. But every time I show them to audiences, there's people that have nothing to do with arts. There's truck drivers and teachers and doctors that really enjoy my work. I think there's some kind of disconnect somewhere where films like mine don't find distribution because someone on the deciding level doesn't think they're commercial enough, or that they wouldn't be interesting to mainstream audience. And I think they're wrong, unfortunately. I would love to see my film. So yes, if anyone's watching this that would like to see my film in their country or their local cinema, please get in touch. I would love to send it your way. In the meantime, I guess people can follow my work on my website, saaralamberg.com, and hopefully I have some good news about distribution about all of my films there.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah, for addressing that. And although you shot in so many different countries, 7 countries, Sarah?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. It's also very universal. Anastasia, you used the stage as well as outdoor nature to shoot your film. And I love the contrast that you showed. And, just like celebrity culture, you actually show the paradox of the extraordinary and the ordinary, and the beauty of the ordinariness. Can you speak to that about, how you shot your film and where and why?
Yeah, when you're asking how, you're talking about the technical stuff.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
I'm not very much about technicality. Like I'm not obsessed about every little details at all. But yeah, just in general.
In general, the outdoor shooting, it was hell. was very difficult. It was very difficult because it was in a forest, as you know, and it was so much cold. Like everyone was freezing, but everyone was like, yeah, why? Because we love making films, as Tarantino says. And everyone was very, very high, and they really loved the process. I don't know why, but they loved it. This was very difficult. The theater shooting, the stage one, it was much easier because it was not that freezing. So it was much easier, but it was very, there was a lot of pressure because I also was the producer. So I had this hell again of multiple roles, like the writer, the director, the producer. I was also acting. And I was in charge of everything, so it was really difficult. This is
too. Sugan, do you remember I was telling you, because I'm also editing my film, and I just wanted to say that word actually means a lot. You know, when you say hell, it's horrific. And I think when we watch such beautiful, films on screen, it just looks so glamorous in so many different ways. We just don't realize like how horrific it is, and the losses that you have to endure during the process, or the challenges. So yeah.
Yeah, and especially like in my country, in Greece, it's really difficult to raise a funding for your film. And here, when we say independent, we really mean zero budget, and I mean zero. I don't mean like, I don't know, maybe in the USA, independent means 100,000. I don't know. But here, it means zero. It means you're totally, you start really by yourself and with some people that believe in you and your vision and the things you want to say, your storytelling, everything. So yeah, the production-wise, it's really difficult. But it works. I wouldn't change it. I mean, of course, I would love for it to be easier, of course, but really, I would go for it again and again. I wouldn't change that. Well, regarding locations, I chose the forest. I mean, the nature in general. And the stage exactly because of the contrast they make. And there are some reasons, again, that they are connected with my experience as a woman and as a human being in arts and in society in general. The one thing with the forest is that I have so many questions for women related to nature, that we are nature, and this means we are irrational, whereas men are related to science and logic and all this stuff. This is the one thing. The other thing is that I feel, because I am an urban human being, I am in a city, I have lived all my life in big cities, etc., that I feel that there is a part of me and of us in general that needs nature to be humans again. And that I feel that maybe it's wrong that in our everyday lives we never have a connection with nature in big cities. It's like it doesn't exist. These are the two things that I had in mind for the forest. I am also having, of course, some references from films and from some directors and filmmakers that I really love. Regarding the stage choice, the first thing is that because my mother was an actress, I kinda grew up in the theater backstage. I was holding the texts for the actors as a little kid. I was in the rehearsals because she took me with her, and I feel like one of my spiritual parents, kind of. This is the one thing. This that stage gives multiple realities. It's the reality of the person that is on stage. It's the reality of the role the person is acting on stage. Is the reality of the person that shoots the camera, and then eventually is the reality of the viewer that is in the theater, and then eventually is the reality through the screen that watches like 5 layers of reality. Which one is the real one? Maybe they are all the real.
Very powerful. Yeah, that's very powerful, and it's something that also, Sarah also shows, like not necessarily stage, but also the process of making the film. It's almost like you have this self-reflective capacity, and you're actually engaging self-reflection in the viewers, to reflect on the screen and what the screen says back to you. Sarah, would you like to speak on that a little bit? Like, how you engage that process and how powerful that was, the self-reflective part.
Yeah, sure. There's interestingly quite a lot of commonalities that we have there, Anastasia. I also had a mother that was an actor and a singer, and I also was fortunate enough to attend productions, and I think I was quite bratty, and the director of the theater decided to channel my energy and put me in a play as an actor myself, and that's how I started off. I guess I've always been interested in this kind of experience of reality, and I feel like every individual in this world, how many are we now? 8 billion, has got their own unique experience of reality, and no matter what I put on screen or on stage, they will always see it from their own perspective and through their life experience and the lens that they understand things, and that's great. That's exactly what I find interesting, and I feel like I want to be the person who can facilitate conversations and ask questions, and that one of those questions is, what is reality, what is not, and like all the different shades of humanity. I think one of the things again that frustrates me about some films, some mainstream films, is how black and white characters are. There's not a lot of variables in terms of the shades that we all are like. And I think that's, earlier you asked what was some of the themes that I like exploring. I guess some of them is like any gender, any person of any gender is imperfect, and like we can all be good and bad, and people that are good morally will still sometimes make morally bad choices. And I guess traditionally females have been sort of put in this box in the film where they have to be the ones that make the morally good choices. And I'm really trying to move away from that, because that doesn't reflect reality for me. I've personally experienced all genders make morally bad and good choices, including myself. Unfortunately, I haven't been foreign to making morally very bad choices in my life. And I think we need to see that on screen, because I feel like whatever's real life also deserves to be on screen, even if it's on a fictional format. What was the original question?
I guess it was about self-reflection, and I feel many of us are self-reflective practitioners, and just through the use of the stage or the screen, not just to make the film, but actually having them as characters, if I may say. Like, it's almost like, you, like Sarah, you show the use of the film camera, and there's a self-reflective component there. And you're showing how you make films using the camera, but really and truly you're using camera as a lens of inquiry to unfold so many different realities, truths that are often hidden. And Anastasia, she does the same. She's using stage. And it also made me think, while we were conversing, that, yeah, my mom was also offered to be a stage dancer. She was a stage dancer, and then she was taken off the dance stage. And so one of my dreams is to actually showcase going back to that dance stage. Now, in my case, that stage literally hasn't happened, but metaphorically it has happened through the dance floor. So so in a lot of my work, the dance floor keeps coming back, and it's just a device. It's a narrative device. But really and truly, Sarah, what I'm talking about is the self-reflective component, and how we use a lot of these elements as not just props but characters, if I may say, and how they help telling the truth. Ariel, Sugand, do you agree with that, or do you have any other thoughts?
I have a question, if I may ask.
Yes.
I see all of us dabbling into multiple roles, and it just reminds me of, I don't know if you've watched this film, Mr. Bean. I think the second part, where you see William Dafoe, the actor, who showcases his film in Cannes Film Festival, and the end titles, the credits roll out, and the entire film has William Dafoe, no one else. Okay, there's no other actor, you see, and the title is directed by William Dafoe, edited by William Dafoe, production by William Dafoe. So it just reminds me. I mean, that's a humorous take on indie film directors across the globe, that they're doing everything basically. Anyway, that's not my question. My question being is that since we dabble so many roles, and more importantly, when I see you two have dabbled into the role of direction as well as the actor. So I'm curious to know that what is your emotion process? Because when you're in front of the camera, you're acting a character, you're portraying a character, and then you quickly have to snap out of it and become the director, and sometimes become the producer. So, I mean, how do you dabble in these two major roles of actor and director, and what is the emotion process to get back to into the character and do justice to what the film is talking about?
I can relate to that. Who would like to speak to that first? Anastasia, do you want to say something?
Yeah, the first thing I'll say is that this is the reason that right now I'm only behind the lens, behind the camera, because it was really exhausting. And I felt many times that maybe I didn't do justice to my own film, that I was really worried that I could not act properly at the moment, really, and connect with the other actresses, because I should have had in my mind, what time is it? We need to get off here because then we will pay more, or like the lights, or like for the outdoor shooting. So it's really difficult. There are many people that manage to do it. I am not one of them anymore. I have chosen the role of writer and director. It's very difficult, but regarding the emotion process that you asked, it's when you're how can I say that, when you're inside this at the moment, you have no choice. You have to swim. It's like you're drowning, and this is the only moment where you can survive. Like, a bit dramatic, but it somehow it is like that, because there's no other choice. You should act because you have chosen to do so for whatever reason. But then everyone will ask you for everything, and you have chosen that also. So you need to be there for them. You need to inspire them. You need to motivate them. You need to create the safe place for them. So you have to be there for them and for yourself, of course. It's your vision. So this is the emotion. It's like a roller coaster. But again, I wouldn't change anything, because just school. You can go to film schools, to theater schools, you can be a doctor in anything, but the field of practice and being a practitioner and stay humble and self-reflect what worked and what didn't. Listen to your colleagues, listen to your crew, your cast. And then the next thing, you're not the same person. You're the better version of you.
Yeah, I could relate to that because I also act and direct at the same time, and I use a principle in acting, which is, just to use the life material that you have and just authentically perform. So basically, whatever the moment is providing you, even if it's like full of contradictions or tensions or risks, use that to create magic in the moment. So in terms of acting, yes, it is challenging, but at the same time, I just use, that situation to portray the challenges of the character. And of course, a lot of it is inspired by true stories. So I have already lived them zillion times. And so it's probably somewhere there. But the most important thing as a director is to create that safe space, as you said, Anastasia, and to motivate others. And because, you're also so much in charge that, you also take charge of your character, but it doesn't dismiss the fact that, yes, it can be very, very distracting, just to make sure everything is on time and, they flow. So I will be in that position coming Friday where, I am directing the cameraman and the co-actor and making sure everything logistically is ready, including my character. So it's not easy, but I'm excited. I've done this a couple of times, and it can be a magical moment. Sarah, can you relate to the question of acting and directing at the same time and how it can be challenging?
Yeah, so I guess I'd like to start with, why am I a writer, director, producer, as well as an actor? I think some of it is out of necessity.
Yeah.
I do think, and I think acting is something that, because I have been doing it for such a long time, since I was 7, that's something that comes quite naturally to me. And that's something that I need to put less effort in, particularly when it's something I've already written. So if I've written the story myself, I've written the script myself, the acting part is actually really easy and joyful. Although when I'm also producing it, perhaps it becomes that little bit less joyful in the process because of the responsibilities that I'm carrying as a producer. But again, it comes back to the necessity of, if I didn't produce it, would these films exist if I didn't produce them? And so I feel like as independent filmmakers, probably regardless of our genders, we tend to take on various different roles just because we have to. And if there was more funding that went into our work, it would be easier to give those roles for someone else to do. But because there isn't a lot of money, or there isn't any money, like it sounds like Anastasia's case, and certainly many of my films haven't had any funding to speak of, perhaps some crowdfunding. So it's more out of necessity that we do so many different roles. But it has actually provided me with a lot of freedom. I don't have to negotiate with anyone if I want to change something about my work. If something about the script no longer works on the set, I don't have to go back to negotiate with anyone else because I wrote it. I can make on the spot decisions, and I feel like that actually makes it a lot more organic in a way. So yes, it is a lot of work. Yes, it can be challenging to go in between those roles, but in some ways it's not. In some ways it's easier, I feel. Because again, I feel like I'm someone who's quite good at making the work, and I know what I want when I'm making it. But would I be able to explain it to someone else? Would I be able to, in that moment, to stand my ground in negotiations why I needed to do something like it? Maybe not. I might not be that person. But when it's myself that I'm fighting against, it's a lot easier. So it's both challenging and organically easy at the same time when I am the creator of the story and then also deliver performance and directing. I do love working with other people, and I always play a lot with. I like giving my actors a lot of freedom in terms of improvisation, for example. And again, that's something that I can do because of the way I work. Again, I don't have to double check with anyone. Is this okay? I can give myself that freedom, and therefore I can give my actors that freedom. And the emotional process in that, I feel like as an actor, you already have to be able to go in between different emotions so quickly, because particularly in a film, perhaps less so in theater, but particularly in a film, we so often shoot things in completely out of the timeline of the story to just fit the situation, light, time of the day, location where we're at. So we have to be able to go in between the different emotions of the story in wrong order and go really quickly in between and change from grief to joy, in a matter of minutes. And I think that skill that I already had as an actor, to be able to go from one emotion to another so quickly and so authentically, has helped me in also going from an actor to being a director, to being a producer on film set. So you just have to be able to be very quick in changes in general, and just super aware of everything that's happening around you. And again, I think those are transferable skills, that a good actor will have those skills. And then it's about learning, of course, technical skills of filmmaking. I myself was in an unfortunate position that I couldn't do acting only. For example, where I grew up in Finland, I wasn't accepted into an acting school because something like 0.14% of applicants get in, and I wasn't in the 0.14%. So I ended up studying media work and camera work, sound work, film work in a production kind of way rather than as an actor before I then progressed to studying in UK, where I got to go back into my performing self and that desire that I had from the beginning. So in some ways it was unlucky. I could have, if I had been within the 0.14% of applicants that got into the theatre school, maybe my life would be very different. Maybe I would now be only an actor and only be able to sort of progress on that path. And I'm sure that would be really enjoyable, because that's still the role that gives me most joy, and because I feel like that was what brought me to filmmaking. But now, because I didn't have that opportunity, because I have had to learn production skills, then later on I was able to, after I had been acting for many years, then later on I was able to go back to and draw from the production skills that I've learned as part of my studies, but also as a part of being an actor in so many independent film productions where many people have to wear many hats. And even as an actor, I would have been helping with many production sides of things as well. So in some ways, that journey now has allowed me to start making films. So it's, yeah, this I guess that was the upside of not getting what I wanted to start with.
Yeah, and it gives a lot of agency and also the vision to open up not only for yourself but also other actors. And I feel it's very co-creative. So I mean, I went to 2 acting schools, one in Hollywood and one in Bollywood, and both came with very good business skills also, and basically developed like the whole portfolio for both Hollywood and Bollywood. And it was out of necessity that I actually started creating a short that is now turning into a feature. And it has been just over 1 year in turning the short into a feature. And I do ask myself, because I took up so much responsibility even as an editor, and again it was just out of lack of funding and lack of time that I had to take up editing, which I never ever imagined. And I still remember the shock I received, because me taking up editing means I would have to drop everything else in acting, auditioning, and doing more films. And so it was a shock, but it was also a great learning curve. And now I feel I am a better filmmaker just because I am editing. And it's a very, very hard process. So many times files crash. We're talking gigs and gigs of files. They may, crash, or you have to redo them. But I find as a director, that's where I also have a lot of agency, and I'm able to show the unseen. I'm able to tell the unsaid, which is really the goal of art, and it's very intuitive too. So I got a hang of it, and you pointed out very well, Sarah, that at the end of the day, an actor has to go back into so many different emotions, right? They go in and out and they play different characters. So I guess, some of us are just getting used to it, and it's very different from what we, see on the bigger screen, when we're growing up, and there's a lot of unlearning also. Ariel, did you want to speak to, directing films? And you have directed a film which is so deep, emotionally so deep. Also, you were inspired by your parents in doing that film, and then you're also a visual artist. Did you have any thoughts on that as a director?
Yes, as an artist and as a filmmaker. So I'm not acting, but it's a huge energy, because I used to do many things, everything. The concept, writing, filming, producing, even if I'm helped by an editor. and by DOP or sound engineer, but we are always a small crew. And I used to shoot, for example, my films in nature, in high mountain. So
Yes.
it's adventure. It's a great moment, but very hard because I do everything. And the last film, it was shot during a whole night in a forest under the full moon. So it's always a very immersive experience. And as an artist, I used to do many things in the sound, my sound piece or my installation or sound and installation piece, photograph or drawings. So it's very, we have to be a complete human being, but it helps us to grow. And it's, yes, it's a huge energy. And about female filmmaker or male filmmaker, I think I'm thinking about the psychoanalytiker Carl Gustav Jung. And he says very interesting things about our human psyche, and we are animus and anima. We are both female and male, and that's why I agree with Anastasia. I'm a filmmaker and artist, and not specifically female. I think because we have to be both, and
Yeah, that's very well said, and yeah, I think it brings out the wholeness too, and there's a lot of unlearning. You know, what we have seen growing up, and we're also like challenging a lot of viewers too, and it's very uncomfortable. A lot of the viewers, which could be, you know, like our own family or friends, you know, they come from a larger celebrity obsessed fandom. And a lot of times I'm just, you know, up against them probably because I'm dismantling a lot of the viewpoints that, again, we all grow up with. And so, for example, like when I'm changing, you know, so many different places, like Sugand was pointing out at the very beginning before we started our panel, we're changing places, you know, and we're changing roles, career roles, you know, and I see the overlaps. But when we're changing so much, it's also unsettling. But that's the kind of change that I want to see. Like, I don't want monolithic, static, you know, viewpoints or roles. So I think I think it's a privilege to be a woman director, although I also believe in genderless identities. But there's a lot of privilege because, and this is very reassuring, you know, that we can bring the wholeness. And it reminds me of the last book talk we had, which was called Incomplete, the Feminist Possibilities of the Unfinished Film. And basically the history of woman is not complete. The history of woman itself, even in contemporary history, it is unfinished. And hence, that's the result we see in the film industry too. But there is like a lot of aesthetic and strategic value of using the incomplete to bring something more whole. And so some of us are actually obsessed with the incomplete, and it gives us more opportunities to self-reflect and bring the whole. Time is flying. I can't believe it's just over 1 hour. And Sarah, it's midnight for you. And thank you so much for being with us. Before we end today's panel, and I hate to say goodbye because I feel this is such a timeless conversation, and you know we can go on, and there's so much more to celebrate. Are there any final thoughts or questions for today? And I don't have a time limit myself. I mean, it's just after 8 a.m. here. So I have the entire day to continue this conversation. Sarah?
I guess just for me, yeah, I would like to just say that if anyone is inspired by something they've seen today, want to reach out, please feel free to do so. I'm very easily accessible on Instagram, for example, Saara Lamberg Official. Or again, you can reach me through my website, saaralamberg.com. And yeah, I would love to continue these conversations, and particularly would love to share my work to anyone anywhere in the world. And let me know and I'll send films your way for sure.
We just had a comment coming in from Janet. She says, what a fabulous panel. Thank you. I've worked closely with Saara, but I'd love to work with any of you fabulous humans. Oh, that's such an honorable mention. Thank you.
So Janet Watson-Cruz is an actor and director and producer. She plays the leading character in my most recent feature film called COMA, which we've just had in cinemas in Melbourne and Adelaide. And
congratulations.
Her performance has just been highly, highly regarded by everyone. And I hope this is another film that I can bring to audiences elsewhere as well. It's called COMA. Yeah.
And I just had one question, and that's not a very important question, but I was just curious. How long did it take to do both these films, The Lies We Tell Ourselves and COMA, Saara, from start to finish?
Yeah, so Lies We Tell Ourselves was, in terms of filming, I think that was stretched over about 2.5 years, maybe even 3 years, but the post-production was already starting at the same time as well, so it was a little bit of hand in hand. And because it's a mockumentary, I almost shot it in some of the similar ways as you might do a documentary, where there's a lot of space in between the shooting days, rather than sometimes in a traditional fictional film you might do 20 days straight or 40 days straight, whereas this one was sort of spread out. And when I saw that I needed something more to be filmed, I would go out and film it. And also because I shot it when I was traveling to different film festivals. I think that's, again, coming back to my themes that I like to explore. I think one of them is environmental, and I think that was one of the biggest reasons for me to make the film when I was traveling to different film festivals, was just to give myself more of a reason for that travel, to feel like my impact on the world is slightly less when I'm also making a new film whilst I was presenting my previous film. So I think that's one of those things that I would like to keep exploring more and more in my work, like human versus nature, and how can we serve it better. That was The Lies We Tell Ourselves in production. Probably the entire lifespan of the production would have been about 5 years, I want to say. And then let's add another year, which was just because of the pandemic and not being able to release the film. And then everything got sort of a little bit delayed by that. COMA was a very different process in terms of shooting. So I work with Kino Movement, which was started in Montreal 25 years ago, and I work with our Melbourne section, Filmonik. And once or twice a year, we do a filmmaking collaboration where we come together and usually make short films in that time. However, I decided to give myself a challenge to shoot an entire feature. So I had 10 days and I shot the feature in that time. However, the post-production then continued. So the post-production took another 2.5 years to complete after that. So COMA was more like 3 years in production.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Oriel and Sugandh and Anastasia, any final thoughts?
I would like really to thank you for the invitation. Hello, Janet. Thank you for saying so. And you can reach me at my Instagram. It's Anastasia_Antonakaki, my name and surname. I am always on the lookout for new cast, crew, distribution of my work, anything. And it was really an honor to be in the same panel with all of you. And thank you again.
Thank you, Anastasia, and looking forward to continuing our conversation. So proud of all our panelists today. And I know how hard, you all work and how much value you put in, and it's timeless and it must continue. Final words, Sugan, then Aurea.
Yeah. Yeah, I just want to say that it was very inspiring and insightful. I really had a wonderful time listening to you all. How two communication mediums, because I feel that all of us have done performing arts or theater or in some way, uh, and we've put two different ways of communicating media or communication arts to performing arts together, and we are communicating a story by infusing the two different ways of communications. And that's what I feel the beauty of an artist is, to experiment two different mediums. And that's basically my takeaway from today's discussion, that how we can achieve what we are passionate about, and how we can communicate by using two different mediums. That's all.
Yeah, so many different, you know, approaches, right? And when it comes to dance film in particular, which is something that Anastasia, you are building on, right, with your theater movement and everything, there's so much power to combining choreography and cinematography, and just using movement as a part of the moving images. And I know there's so much to talk about that, but I think there's a lot of power because you're actually using very non-linear representations, and that's so much important. And one of the ways to do that is, through movement and using choreography on top of everything else. But that's just like one, element that, we have in common. So very proud of that. Ariel, any final thoughts?
Thank you for the invitation. And I'm sure that in the future and right now, art historian will highlight women in cinema, in art. I'm very hopeful about that. So.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for supporting that, and looking forward to seeing more on screen and also curating. And there's a lot of responsibility when it comes to, sending out our films for curation or when we are curating, which is something I'm also very honored to do, and very, very happy for all of you. So yeah, it's very hard to say goodbye, but I will say goodnight to Sarah, and a wonderful evening to everybody else. And please stay in touch. And those who have joined us live today, very special thanks to Janet for coming in, and everybody else. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I will see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. You too, and have a wonderful Sunday.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It was lovely meeting you all.
Same here. Talk to you
Thanks
soon.
for having me.